Right away? Okay, great. Tara Andrews? And as you speak, please just stand up and say your name and your organization.
Tara Andrews with the National Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Coalition and also the Coalition for Juvenile Justice. I'm going to direct my question towards Mr. Schwartz, but I appreciate a response from the other panelists as well. As the administrator, you hear from all sides. You hear from Congress, you hear from state-based advocates, you hear from the White House, state officials, law enforcement, and practitioners. How should OJJDP sort through all of those different voices and opinions and find its own voice and then be the leader on issues that are of importance to the field?
Tough question. When I was in the office, I really had absolutely no political pressure put on me at all. The only political question I was asked was the Attorney General of the United States, when I was, coming in for an interview, said, what are you going to do during the election? And I said, vote. And I think I did vote in the next one. But, I think this is where the office needs to assemble information, sift through it, and hopefully serve as a bully pulpit based on really informed information, the best that's out there. And it's difficult. And I think, this is where, the administrator of the office needs to play a leadership role. And it's not just reacting, but also being proactive. Some of you heard me say, I think, a number of times that when on the issue of removing children from adult jails, we had the National Sheriff's Association, the American Correctional Association supporting it. One of the groups that was slow was the National Coalition of State Juvenile Justice Advisory Committees. And why? They were afraid of what might happen in their own states. There's some controversy in getting children out of adult jails. I had to assume some leadership at a national meeting to stand up and point that out and to basically say, I think it's wonderful that organizations like the National Sheriff's Association, I think the National District Attorneys Association all supported it. And here, the group that should be out in front, the advocates, were a little slow. And I think they were a bit embarrassed into supporting it. And so the point that I want to make here is that I think the administrator has to be a leader. And I think also, leadership and playing a role in terms of a bully pulpit needs to be based on informed decision making. And so you do need to listen to all the groups, but at some point you need to make a decision. And you need to make an informed decision and play a leadership role. Granted, I made sure that the Attorney General and what have you were supportive of what we wanted to do. But you have to be a leader, you have to educate, and in some cases that means building support for what you want to try to accomplish.
And Tara, I think that's a question that really actually strikes home for me, having talked to all six of you about your administrations, and that also might have a lot to do with the question, Laura, that you asked, which is dealing with these different constituencies, these different groups that you have. I just want to give a chance for Al and John. It seemed to me that, well, John, certainly more in your administration, that there were an awful lot of competing interests that you had to deal with in the agency. And Al, I'm not sure if you felt that way when you got there, but would either of you want to talk about that? Because there were a lot of groups that it seemed like you had to either try to keep happy or weren't happy with you one way or the other.
Okay. Within the agency?
No, outside the state advisory, everybody.
A couple things I read was up until a couple of the Justice Department officials that loved LEA started whacking on me. We had really good support from the Attorney General, from the Deputy, from Pete Flannery, from the White House, and so forth. I think are we on here? I think I had the advantage and the disadvantage of trying to stay as close to the statute and what the Judiciary Committee had directed us to do. We did meetings, more meetings than you could imagine around the country, with the nonprofit groups, with the youth workers, with SBA groups. to get buy-in or advice and so forth. But we really honed in on the essential aspects of the mandates in the law and the priorities for special emphasis that the committee and the Congress had set out. As a consequence, if groups hadn't bought into it, they would have the problem and we would have the problem. Some of that is what occurred. People didn't support the statute, certain groups. The SBA groups did not support the statute. I used to say, I was reminded of this when I read one of these Youth Today articles, that the SBA, criminal justice SBA groups, were to juvenile justice what the NRA is to gun control. That's about the way we felt about it. So we could not have satisfied them. They opposed it. The ACA opposed the statute. We had trouble with getting the statute passed with the Welfare League because of the deinstitutionalization might mean facilities smaller than the ones that participated in the Welfare League. So I know about consensus building. We used to have to get 51 votes. I know a lot about that. But with regard to the situation we were in, I don't think we had the opportunity that maybe the same opportunity someone downstream might have had.
Hey, now we have a question from Debbie Shore. Debbie, I'm sorry. Oh, did you want to say something? I'm sorry.
Just say a couple of things. First of all, of course, an administrator is a representative of the president. And so it's a political position, and things change in elections, so there are different priorities. And the administrator certainly has to be aware of that, particularly where you change, obviously, from one party to the other. People have campaigned on different things. In my case, I had an enormous number of people coming to me from every direction wanting, actually probably more than anything else, they wanted the money. I think they were more concerned about who was going to get the grant than they were about the direction of the office. But there was a good deal of that as well. But on the other hand, you've got the staff who are at least supposed to be, and I think in that case were, well informed on the issues. They knew what had been tried before, what worked. And so you have to compete the interests and particularly the positions that the staff take to the people on the outside. And I guess mix the politics into all of that to try to keep the priorities straight. There's certainly more information coming at you that any one person can digest and probably get out into any kind of a intelligent format. But you just have to sift through it, I guess. And certainly the constituencies are going to change too. I mean, in the Obama administration, you've got different constituencies that you've got to please than we did in the Reagan administration. So that's a part of it as well.